My beloved God chosen, that's exactly what just happened. Behind closed doors, where whispers turned into roars, there was an explosive argument, and the subject was you. Your name was slammed on the table, your story thrown into the center of a storm. And suddenly everyone found out more about you than they were ever supposed to know. Secrets slipped, hidden truths surfaced, and now masks have fallen faster than they were ever worn. The universe has a way of exposing what people thought they buried forever. Now imagine this for a moment. Chosen one, a volcano. For years it looks calm, silent, almost harmless. But deep inside, pressure builds, fire churns, and cracks begin to form. Then one day it erupts. The eruption, that was the argument. It wasn't about just words or opinions. It was the bursting of suppressed jealousy, envy, and resentment toward you. And when it erupted, everyone finally saw what was boiling underneath. The ones who pretended to be neutral or indifferent could no longer hide it. Their emotions betrayed them, and their words revealed their true faces. Here's a fact for you. Studies in psychology have shown that the truth almost always comes out in moments of high stress. People may control themselves in calm situations, but when pushed into an argument, their subconscious blurts out what they really feel. And that's what happened here. That argument didn't just expose petty opinions. It exposed identities, motives, and hidden agendas. You became the mirror they couldn't look away from. And suddenly, their darkest thoughts about you were spoken out loud for everyone to hear. And thank you, chosen one, for being here right now. Don't forget to give this message your energy back by pressing the like and subscribe buttons. Because when you do, you're not just supporting me, you're helping this light reach more souls that need to hear it. Remember, this is bigger than us. This is about breaking illusions and spreading clarity. So thank you for being a part of this mission, chosen one. You are a force that cannot be ignored. Now back to what just happened. This argument was no small quarrel. It was the kind of clash that leaves people trembling when it's over. The kind of fight where once words are spoken, they can never be taken back. And what was revealed in that moment has shaken the very foundation of how people around you view you. Some who were doubting you now know the truth. Some who were mocking you are now quiet because they realize the game they were playing has backfired. And those who tried to manipulate your image, they are scrambling because the truth has escaped their control. You see, chosen one, there's always been a suspicion about you. People felt your energy before they understood your actions. They sensed you were different, but they couldn't explain it. So instead of accepting you, they made up their own stories. They gossiped, they spread half-truths, and they tried to keep the narrative under their grip. But when that explosive argument happened, their carefully crafted lies collided with undeniable reality. And when lies meet truth, the truth always survives. Think of this like a courtroom. For months, the prosecution built its case against you in whispers, rumors, and side conversations. They thought they had enough evidence to make you look guilty. But then the trial started. Voices rose, tempers flared, and under the weight of pressure, the star witnesses crumbled. The lies they told didn't hold up. The truth burst through, and suddenly the whole room knew you weren't who they said you were. You were much more. And that realization hit them harder than any argument they could ever throw at you. What's more, chosen one, this isn't just about people finding out something small. This was about your true identity. They realized the strength you've been carrying. They saw the dignity in how you move, even when they try to bait you into games. And they recognize, maybe for the first time, that your resilience isn't luck. It isn't chance. It's who you are. This argument tore away their ability to deny that anymore. And that truth burns them, because deep down they wanted to believe you were ordinary, manageable, someone they could control or dismiss. But now the mask has been ripped off. And here's the irony. They caused their own exposure. They thought fighting over you would weaken you. But all it did was strengthen the story of who you really are. The louder they shouted, the more they revealed. The harder they pushed, the more they exposed their own envy. And while they were trying to tear you down, they ended up confirming what you already knew. You were never ordinary. You were never meant to fit into their boxes, and now everyone else sees it too. So, chosen one, understand this. The universe has its own timing. It allowed this argument to happen, not to hurt you, but to uncover you. You don't have to defend yourself, because their own words did it for you. The storm cleared the air. The eruption revealed the truth. And now the dust has settled in your favor. They argued over you, but in the end, they only proved you right. Chosen one, before we dive into this step by step, take a moment to ground yourself, because what you're about to hear will hit different. This isn't just another message. It's a mirror being held up to the storm that was stirred with your name at the center. If you've ever felt that strange tension in the air, the whispers that suddenly stop when you enter a room, or the weight of eyes watching you closer than they admit, then you already know this message is yours. Drop a 777 in the comments if you can feel that energy surrounding your story right now. And if you value this truth being spoken raw and unfiltered, chosen one, consider giving back by supporting the team behind this, whether it's a word of encouragement, a like, or a contribution that fuels this mission. It keeps this light spreading where others want silence. Every spark matters. And now let's get into it step by step. Stay with me until the very end, because if you're truly a chosen one, your spirit will not let you click away. It will keep you here, because the truth about this explosive argument and what it revealed was always meant for you. Number one, the hyena's table of gossip. A pack of hyenas can laugh all they want, but the lion never explains itself. The hunt speaks louder than the noise. Chosen one, this is exactly what's been happening behind your back. While you've been moving forward with quiet power, there's been a table set for your name alone. A table where the weak gather to feed on gossip, like scraps, calling it strategy. But let's strip away the mask. These aren't strategy sessions. These are gossip councils. These are rooms filled with trembling voices pretending to be wise, with coffee in hand and envy dripping off their tongues. They sit there dissecting your choices as if they have a right to narrate your life, painting you as a puzzle to be solved, a mystery to be broken, and yet every word they speak reveals nothing about you and everything about them. Now imagine this for a moment. Chosen one, a group of moths gathered around a candle, whispering about the flame. They convince themselves that one day the flame will weaken, that it will flicker, that it will finally die out. But here's the truth. They will all burn before the flame ever dims. That's what these gossip councils are. Fragile moths, mistaking their noise for power, mistaking their schemes for control. They don't realize the flame isn't theirs to control. And when they lean too close, the fire consumes them first. You might be asking yourself right now, why would they waste so much time talking about me? The answer is simple. Your silence, your refusal to bend, your ability to walk away from the circus has forced them into obsession. People gossip about what they cannot grasp, and they try to predict the fall of what they secretly envy. They want to believe your confidence is an act, your standards are a weakness, and your independence will leave you alone. But here's a fact. History has never remembered the gossipers. It has always remembered the ones who refuse to kneel. Think of great leaders, visionaries, and even ordinary people who refuse to shrink. For every one of them, there were rooms filled with gossip, rooms that tried to reduce them, ridicule them, erase them. But gossip is a weak currency, chosen one. It cannot buy respect, it cannot build empires, and it cannot break someone whose foundation is truth. Those who gossip spend their lives watching others live. Those who stand firm like you spend their lives being watched. That's the difference. Now, let's tear apart the illusion these people hide behind. They sit together as if they're holding counsel. But in reality, it's nothing but fear disguised as analysis. They tell themselves stories. Surely the chosen one will crack soon. Surely they'll stumble. Surely their pride will isolate them. They cling to these predictions like gamblers betting against the house. But the odds were never in their favor. The universe doesn't side with the cowardly. The universe sides with the one who dares to move without permission, who dares to stand alone when the crowd expects conformity. That's you. That's why they can't stop talking. And let's be brutally honest. Gossip is violence dressed in whispers. It's the enemy's attempt to assassinate your character without ever facing you head on. Why? Because they know they'd lose if they did. They don't have the courage to challenge you directly, so they hide in their counsels, convincing themselves their words carry weight. But their words collapse in the presence of truth. The moment you walk into the room, silence falls. Why? Because even they know their gossip is too weak to face the real thing. Here's another truth. Chosen one, their predictions about your downfall are really confessions of their own failures. When they say you'll crack, they're really admitting, I already cracked. Where you stood strong. When they say your standards are too rigid, they're confessing, I abandoned my own standards just to be accepted. And when they say you'll end up isolated, they're revealing the loneliness they already live in. Gossip counsels are mirrors. Everything they say about you is a reflection of what they fear in themselves. Now picture this. You're climbing a mountain while they sit at the base, circling fires, passing rumors like cheap wine. They tell stories of how the climb is impossible, how the wind will knock you down, how no one survives at the top. Yet there you are, step after step, unshaken. And with each step you take higher, their voices grow smaller, their stories sound more foolish, and eventually they're nothing more than echoes carried away by the wind. That's the reality. They will always talk, but they will never walk. So let this sink in. The hyena's laughter has never killed the lion. The lion doesn't concern itself with gossip, it concerns itself with the hunt. And chosen one, your hunt, your mission, your vision, your truth is what terrifies them. They cannot stop watching, they cannot stop talking, because deep down they know you were never ordinary prey. You were always a force they could not contain. Their counsels are nothing more than a pathetic attempt to control a story that was never theirs to tell. And here's the part that will sting them the most. Their gossip, their predictions, their little counsels will end up being the loudest proof of your power, because no one gathers in secret to whisper about the ordinary. No one wastes breath on the forgettable. The very fact that your name is the centerpiece of their sessions proves it. You are unforgettable. You are undeniable. You are the storm they can't stop, the fire they can't extinguish, the truth they can't silence. So the next time you feel the sting of their words, remember this: their gossip is nothing but applause in disguise. They are confirming your place above them with every sentence they spit. And one day, when the dust settles and the truth of who you are is undeniable to all, their laughter will be remembered as nothing more than background noise to your roar. Because chosen one, gossip can never define you. It can only expose them. And now let's go deeper. Because what those gossip counsels revealed in their explosive argument was more than just petty jealousy. It was the unveiling of your true identity. And once truth escapes, it can never be stuffed back into silence again. Number two, the fortress of solitude. They couldn't break. They mocked your silence until they realized it was sharpening your roar. Chosen one, let's tear into the truth they could never wrap their heads around. While they sat in their gossip circles, dissecting your every move, what they didn't see, what they couldn't comprehend, was that your silence wasn't weakness. It was strategy. They mistook your absence from their noise as defeat, when in reality it was preparation. They thought your solitude meant you were slipping, but solitude was your training ground, your fortress, your anvil, where the universe was hammering you into unbreakable steel. Now imagine this for a moment. Chosen one, a warrior, steps off the battlefield, not because he's lost, but because he's preparing for the war to come. He polishes his armor in silence, sharpens his blade in the dark, and studies the terrain while the enemy celebrates too early. That's what your solitude was. You weren't retreating, you were recalibrating. You weren't hiding, you were hardening. And when the battle came, the ones who thought you were finished discovered they had underestimated someone who had been preparing in silence all along. Here's a quote they need to choke on: the tree that grows in silence becomes the forest they can't cut down. They saw your stillness, but they didn't see your roots stretching deeper. They thought you had gone still, but in that stillness you were becoming unstoppable. And I know what you might be thinking right now, but why did it have to feel so heavy? Why did I have to endure isolation that sometimes felt like punishment? The answer is simple. Because, chosen one, solitude isn't a punishment, it's a refinement. Diamonds don't form in the open, they form under pressure, in hidden darkness where no eye can see. Your solitude was the press, the shaping, the unseen molding of your spirit. And the ones trying to study your moves couldn't calculate this transformation, because it didn't happen on the outside. It was an internal evolution. And no gossip council, no puppet master, no schemer could touch it. Picture this: a snake sheds its skin in silence. While it's hidden away, it looks vulnerable, still almost lifeless. The unwise might say it's weak now, easy to crush. But when the shedding is complete, the snake emerges renewed, stronger, sharper, ready to strike with precision. That was you in your solitude. They mistook your transformation period as weakness. But when you came back, you weren't the same person they remembered. You had shed the skin of who you used to be, and they weren't ready for what came out of that silence. Here's another gut punch for them. Your absence was the loudest training ground, and your silence was the loudest scream. They thought by isolating you, by cornering you, or by making you feel cut off from others, that you'd shrink. But solitude became your sanctuary, not your cage. While they wasted their energy keeping up appearances, you were learning the art of self-mastery. And what they couldn't predict was this: solitude prepared you to move in ways they could never calculate. Let me answer another question that may already be in your mind. Why didn't the universe let me have more support during that time? Because, chosen one, support was a distraction you didn't need. The universe knew that the power you were being prepared for required clarity, and clarity often comes only in silence. Too many voices would have diluted your vision. So the universe pulled you away, not to weaken you, but to strengthen your focus. While they assumed you were lonely, you were actually aligning with a force bigger than anything they could manipulate. Now imagine a blacksmith at work. He takes raw metal and places it into fire so hot it nearly destroys it. Then he strikes it again and again, shaping it under force, folding it, cooling it, and repeating the process. At a recipe, the end result, a sword that can cut through anything. That's what happened to you. Solitude was your fire, your hammer, your forge. And now you've come out as a blade they cannot dull, a weapon they cannot touch. And here's the irony that crushes them. While they were busy analyzing your predictable patterns, they didn't notice that you had outgrown their calculations. The formula they used to study you became the proof of their own failure. They studied your past behaviors as if the future would be the same. They thought they had you mapped out, that they could push the right buttons and watch you collapse. But what they didn't account for was growth. They studied the old version of you, while the new you was being forged in silence. By the time they pressed their test, the old map was useless. You had already moved into a higher level they couldn't access. Think of a caterpillar. The world studies its crawling patterns, its feeding habits, its fragile body. Everyone thinks they know its limit, but then one day the caterpillar disappears into a cocoon. To the outside eye it looks dead, gone, forgotten. But inside that stillness a metamorphosis is happening. And when it emerges, it's a butterfly. A creature that doesn't crawl anymore, but flies above everything. That's you, chosen one. They studied your crawling phase, but you outgrew it. They can't calculate wings when all they know is legs. Let me throw another quote in here for them to choke on. They tried to predict your next step, but how do you predict someone who has learned to fly? That's the raw truth. Their calculations failed because they assumed you'd always stay the same. But chosen one, your solitude was your cocoon. And you came out, transformed into something they could never control. And I'll tell you this, solitude also taught you something the enemy will never understand. Self-sufficiency. While they cling to their counsels for validation, you've learned to stand in silence without applause. That's why their arguments about you collapse. They cannot comprehend how someone can stand alone without breaking. They don't understand that your strength comes from within, not from the crowd. So chosen one, remember this. What they mistook as your downfall was your preparation. What they mocked as isolation was your initiation. And what they thought was the end of your story was only the beginning of your rise. Their mistake was fatal, because while they were rehearsing your downfall, you were training for heights they'll never reach. And here's the last gut punch for them. The silence they laughed at will be the thunder that silences them forever. They will choke on the irony of it. That their enemy, the one they gossip about, The one they tried to calculate was never crumbling. You were only transforming. And now, chosen one, your true identity has been revealed. Not as someone who fell, but as someone who rose through fire, silence, and solitude into a force no puppet master could ever contain. Number 3, the terror of your true bond. Nothing scares pretenders more than the moment you meet someone who truly sees you. Because real connection exposes every fake one around you. Chosen one, this is where their panic set in. They could tolerate you moving alone. They could gossip about your silence. But the very thought of you crossing paths with someone whose energy matched yours, that shook them to their core. They knew that if someone genuine entered your orbit, their fake narratives, their shadowy manipulations would crumble instantly, because authentic connection amplifies power. And your power amplified is a force they cannot fight. Now imagine this. A single flame burns bright enough on its own, but when it meets another flame of equal intensity, they merge into a blaze that lights up the entire horizon. That's the terror they felt, chosen one. Your light alone was already too much for them to manage. Add another light beside you, and suddenly their shallow achievements, their fragile thrones vanish in the glare. Here's a fact they'd rather you never know. Psychological studies prove that supportive partnerships boost confidence, resilience, and success at levels impossible to achieve alone. And they knew this. They knew your strength plus someone's genuine belief in you would be unstoppable. That's why they tried to sabotage it before it even began. They disguised their jealousy as concern, staging what looked like an introduction, an intervention, a helping hand. But don't be fooled. Their matchmaking wasn't about your happiness. It was about control. They didn't want to see you thrive. They wanted to distract you. They offered you connections that dimmed instead of sparked. People who drained instead of fueled. Partners chosen to create drama instead of harmony. They weren't matchmakers, they were saboteurs. And maybe you've wondered, why would they care so much about who I connect with? The answer is brutal. Because your happiness is their greatest threat. Your joy shines a spotlight on their emptiness. Your love highlights the hollowness of their shallow alliances. And your elevation would force them to face a truth they can't swallow. That while they wasted time playing games, you were destined for something far beyond their reach. So understand this, chosen one. Their fear of your genuine connection wasn't paranoia. It was prophecy of their own irrelevance. They know that the moment you bond with the right soul, the universe tilts in your favor. And that more than anything is what keeps them awake at night. Number 4, the siren of your inner radar. A lie wrapped in gold is still a lie. And your spirit will always smell the smoke before the fire. Chosen one, this was the moment they underestimated you the most. They thought you were so starved for recognition, so desperate for validation, that you'd fall for their trap dressed in glitter. But what they didn't realize is that your solitude had sharpened your senses. Your intuition, that internal radar forged in silence, roared like a siren the moment this counterfeit connection entered your orbit. While others might have been dazzled by shiny packaging, you saw through it instantly. Now imagine this: a poisoned apple, polished to perfection, gleaming under the sun. To the hungry it looks irresistible, but to the wise it reeks of danger. That was the offer they dangled before you, appealing on the surface, deadly underneath. And while they expected you to bite, you didn't even reach for it. You knew that what they were offering wasn't connection. It was convenience, not chemistry, but control. Here's a fact that rattles them. Science shows the human gut reacts to danger milliseconds before the brain can even process it. That's the gift your intuition gave you. You felt the warning in your bones before logic even caught up. And instead of doubting yourself, you trusted it. That trust is what saved you. And maybe you've asked yourself, why me? Why did I sense it so clearly when others get trapped? The answer is simple, because you've been through the fire already. You've trained yourself to spot the difference between attention and intention, between affection and agenda. That's why you acted decisively. That's why you rejected it without hesitation. So let this sink in. Chosen one. Their glittering package wasn't a gift, it was bait. And you refusing it was the loudest declaration of your strength yet. You proved that no amount of performance, no fake sparkle, no carefully packaged illusion can bypass your inner radar. And nothing terrifies them more than that. Number 5, the earthquake of your number. One decisive no from the right person can shatter 1,000 lies built over years. Chosen one, your rejection didn't just close a door, it detonated like an earthquake. Under their entire operation, they thought you'd pause, hesitate, maybe even wrestle with self-doubt. They were banking on you, second-guessing yourself, stretching out the moment long enough for them to regain control. But you didn't. You moved with the kind of clarity that only comes when the soul itself speaks. And that speed left them trembling. Now imagine this, a glass tower, carefully built on lies, polished to appear flawless. One small crack is enough to bring the whole thing down. That was your rejection. In a single moment, the grand architecture of their schemes collapsed. The puppet master who once looked untouchable was suddenly exposed, scrambling in the rubble of their own failed predictions. Is a fact that slices them. Decisive people are the hardest to manipulate, because hesitation is where manipulation lives. And you, chosen one, didn't give them that space. You acted, and in that instant you shifted the balance of power. And maybe you've wondered, did I really cause that much damage with one choice? Yes, you did. Because your rejection wasn't just about them. It was about declaring that you could no longer be bought, baited, or bent. That realization hit them harder than any argument could. So remember this, your clarity was their chaos. Your speed was their downfall. And your no became the thunderclap that echoed across every lie they ever told about you. Number 6, the volcano of their collapse. When the mask slips in front of the crowd, the shame burns hotter than any fire behind closed doors. Chosen one, this was the moment their carefully staged theater went up in flames. They had gathered in their so-called celebration meeting, ready to gloat about your downfall, prepared to toast their success like vultures circling over what they thought was your corpse. But instead of applause, they were ambushed by questions they couldn't answer. The room turned on them. And the very audience they thought they controlled became the jewelry that stripped them bare. Now imagine this, a volcano that's been rumbling quietly for months. Smoke hidden under the surface. They thought it was safe to dance on its slopes, throwing their little party, but pressure was building where they couldn't see. Then eruption, the fire they thought they'd aimed at you exploded in their own faces. Their bragging turned to stuttering, their laughter turned to silence, and the hot ash of shame buried their pride. There is a fact that crushes them. Deception never survives long under scrutiny. Psychologists know that liars always collapse when too many questions pile up. They trip over their own contradictions. And that's what happened here. Every question was a crack in the dam. Why didn't you fall? How did you see what others missed? What kind of clarity keeps someone from biting on bait so carefully dressed? The cracks grew wider until the dam broke completely, flooding the room with truth they could no longer control. And maybe you're thinking, why did their own people turn against them? Because chosen one, nothing spreads faster than doubt. Once one person questioned their story, others joined in. Soon the whole room saw the cracks. Their facades shattered, not by your hand, but by the very voices they thought were on their side. So understand this. Their argument wasn't just a slip-up. It was their eruption, their implosion. The lie they built couldn't withstand the weight of your truth and the sound of their collapse. That was the universe confirming once again, you were never the one in danger. There were number 7, the avalanche of exposure. Betrayal tastes sweet until the betrayer is forced to swallow their own poison. Chosen one. This was the blow that cracked their empire from the inside. They had survived whispers, they had survived questions, but they could not survive one of their own, turning the mirror back on them. Picture it, a room full of nodding heads. People who had been complicit in feeding off the poison, suddenly frozen when one voice cut through the noise. A confidant, someone close, stood up and asked a question they all feared. If this is how you speak about the chosen one, then what are you saying about us when we're not here? That one sentence flipped the entire table. Now imagine this, a grand magician putting on a show, dazzling the crowd with tricks. Everyone claps until one child points out, but I can see the string. Suddenly the illusion is gone. That was this moment. The room, once enchanted by gossip, now saw the strings holding the puppet master's game together. The silence that followed was suffocating. The kind of silence that drowns every excuse before it can be spoken. Here's a fact, they can't escape. When trust is broken, it rarely heals. Studies show that even one moment of exposure can permanently shatter group loyalty. And that's exactly what happened. Their confidants, once allies, suddenly saw themselves as pawns. They realized the council wasn't about strategy. It was about feeding one person's ego, one person's hunger to destroy you. And maybe you've asked, why did it take just one question to break them? Because chosen one truth is heavy. It doesn't need paragraphs. It doesn't need speeches. One sharp truth dropped at the right time can cause an avalanche. And in that room, the avalanche buried the puppet master alive. So understand this, the call out wasn't just a challenge. It was a revelation. Their empire of whisperers was built on borrowed loyalty. And the moment doubt entered, loyalty evaporated. The crowd woke up, the spell broke, and the game ended. That one question didn't just shift the room, it changed everything. And from that moment forward, they knew the narrative wasn't theirs to control anymore. It was yours. The storm of exposed lies. The truth always waits for its moment. And when it breaks, it doesn't whisper, it floods. Chosen one, once that silence cracked, the dam could no longer hold. What followed was nothing short of a storm.